Hompi hompi atana pukin. Hompi hompi sasha mama hompi hompi maiti otorongo hompi hompi sewakenti. Beautiful Pachamama. Inti tai tai. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm fine, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm fine, yeah. And my message from the Galactic Council is to help us in understanding this, I call it shadow alchemy time. It's like we are doing shadow work alchemy as a collective. And it's tricky. We find our defense mechanisms going into shutdown. We want to find safety in people that we feel similar to. And it brings up fears of that which we don't know. Fears of that which we don't understand. And this is to help our consciousness come to a level of understanding so that we can hold the divine dichotomy in our systems, in our consciousness. And by divine dichotomy, I mean two seemingly opposing truths existing in the same space. So two opposites. Both are valid, both are true. And we go, the mind boggles. How can both things be so in the same space? And we can't quite wrap our heads around it, and we get confused, and we want to choose sides because we feel, no, I need to pick one. They can't both exist here. And we struggle to hold the duality. And this is what's happening at the moment, that people are challenged to hold the polar opposite, to hold the polarity that's in the space. And that is the magnetic shift, is that we're rejiggling so that we can hold both. And there's lots of examples of this at the moment and in history. Certainly one that I see, that I find in my space, is the videos, I don't quite know what to call them. I don't want to use the word conspiracy theory, but there's videos out there that are saying, please be aware of this cabal or elite group, and they're called a cult, running the consciousness of the general public. and that there is this elite, demonic, they're called, group of people that want to control and have been controlling the entirety of the planet for quite some time, and that there's another group overthrowing them because what they're doing to claim power and suck energy from fear, and it involves the innocence of children, and the accusations are quite disturbing, to say the least. And I find it challenging to take that on and to alchemize that in my system, because one, I have a little girl, so I completely judge anything that has accusations around children and the doing of control. Yeah, adults overthrowing their command, overthrowing their position of power, and hurting, manipulating people and treating it a little bit like a game. And I'm not here to say that we should keep our eyes closed and pretend like none of this stuff is happening. My view of the cosmos is such that actually whatever you can imagine has the capability of happening, right? If it didn't exist as data in the metaphysical space, we wouldn't even be able to conceive of the thought, okay? It just wouldn't be reachable for us. Anything that we can conceive of in our imagination, for me, exists in the thought space. So yes, I'm not pretending that some of this horrific stuff doesn't happen. I don't think that we should be closed-eyed about it. I think we should say, yeah, all of these energies have the capability of happening, but at the other end of the spectrum of that is divinity. And the only reason for the darkness is so that divinity can experience itself, that one cannot exist without the other, and we do live in a relative reality, therefore there must be the polar opposite of that, because this energy is learning. We are growing, we're experiencing through, okay, we're doing this, but this is so ineffective. So with all of these issues and this information coming to light, I think it's very important to speak to that it shouldn't make us more afraid. It shouldn't send us into panic. It shouldn't send us into distress. It shouldn't send us into separation. We're not supposed to take sides here. We want to do this in a let's learn from it capacity and ask the questions. Well, if this is really going on, what do they love so much that they're able to do this? Because everything is an expression of love. That is the core message that we don't want to forget. Everything is an expression of love, but sometimes it's just a distorted expression. It's a mangled expression of love because it's perhaps tipped over the edge. And my personal experience of a love that can go to the extreme and become toxic is when I had my baby girl, I did go into a real protection mode, and I didn't want anyone else to really even hold the baby because I didn't want them to hurt her, to drop her, to do anything wrong, to say anything wrong. And I felt that need to, nobody else gets to enjoy this beautiful thing because I don't want it tainted. I don't want anything to ruin this precious pure, perfect being. And actually that protection came over me to a point where it could almost get toxic, and that I wanted to push everybody else out and go really insular, and I could feel it going too far. And I thought, this isn't actually healthy. This is so much love that it's actually verging on, this could go toxic if I didn't have the awareness to recognize that. So everything is a form of love. Everything is an expression of love. And that is what I find really useful to hold in my heart when taking on information such as this. You know, have these things been going on in the world? Yes, no, doesn't matter, but we must come with an open heart and the capacity to hold space for the toxicity and say, wow, let us not condemn nor push out. Let us understand. We must take responsibility as a collective. This is not them versus us. This is we as a collective take responsibility for this toxicity, because we are all one. There is not they do this and we're all love and light and we would never do anything like that. There must be a responsibility as a collective that if this is going on, we as a race are all partly responsible for whatever is happening. And we are all partly responsible to say, how do we move through this? How do we assist in the transformation of this toxicity? Where can we find a sacred expression of love? How do we help? Not to let anyone off the hook, not to make it all okay. Oh, continue what you're doing. No, 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 no. I mean, how do we, as gods, divinely process all of this? How do we as a collective decide to move through this? And is it with love and power and acceptance and growth? And I want to understand. I genuinely want to understand and grow. And from that container, that wholeness, that power, then we will get through this as a human race. If it is from the old paradigm again of separation, you over there is doing that and we over here are clean and clear, it's going to cause divide, separation, and you're just as bad as the other party when you don't take ownership and you say, you're in the wrong. This is not a battle between right and wrong. That does not exist, because any fight is a fight for victim mode, okay? If two people are having a battle and a fight, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, then each party is wanting to claim victim position and be right, be validated. And that's the only time a conflict can take place. One person's wanting to control. So I hope this is interesting for you. I hope you're able to find some sense of settling instead of a fight or flight response where it's contracted and it wants revenge and it wants more fear and more contraction, because that's what we want to move away from. If we meet this with understanding, acceptance, wholeness, and full capacity with responsibility on a collective level, we will transform into a race that we can be proud of, into a race that expresses its divinity on a conscious level. And for me, that is the most important acknowledgement for really this time right now and for the next 10 to 50 years. This is what's important for our next generation. This heightened awareness and this understanding. All my love. Happy chat.